Apple phone says it's 6:30. All right. I'm going to call the meeting to order. You want to do roll call?
Yes, Chair Chalf. Commissioner Douglas?
Present.
Commissioner Cardenas? Absent. Commissioner Cooley?
Present.
Vice Chair Kirkpatrick?
Here.
And Chair Chalf?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Who is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Oh, right. All right, yeah.
John usually does it.
Sure, I'd be happy to, Chair. Please stand. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. I love that. Approve order of the agenda. I approve that.
We have
Do we need a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Okay, are there blue folder items?
Chair Chalf, we do not have any items in the blue folder items.
Wonderful. Next is public comments on non-agenda items. We turn it over to you.
Yes, Chair, thank you so much. I wanted to take this moment to introduce Lisa Edwards. Lisa Edwards is a principal planner from Wildan, and Wildan has been kind enough to be able to allow us to work with their planning division. Currently, the city of Rolling Hills has a contract with Wildan to utilize them for engineering services, and we have extended that to their planning branch. We're really happy to have Ms. Edwards with us with the city of Rolling Hills. She has an extensive experience in the planning division and community development of Wildan. So Ms. Edwards will be working with the city of Rolling Hills until we have filled the vacancy that John Signo has left the city with. So we will be working with her moving on forward, so you'll see her. She'll be a familiar face.
Well, welcome. We're happy to have you. Thank you for assisting.
And I do have a second announcement. This evening, sadly, will be Commissioner Cooley's last meeting on the Planning Commission. And we'll hopefully have a future meeting where we can recognize you for all your commitment and time to the Planning Commission and to the city of Rolling Hills.
Thank you very much.
Now, if we don't accept her resignation, can we just keep her?
Yes.
Second.
All in favor?
There you go.
So thank you very much. And Chair, that is the conclusion of my public comments under non-agenda items.
Thank you very much, and thank you for acknowledging. We appreciate all that you have done. 8 years.
8 years, my God, time flies when you're having fun, right, Dad?
Oh, my God. Big salaries.
Great team. I cannot say enough good words about this team of smart and good people, keeping the focus on keeping our community the way it should be and keeping the residents pretty happy with decisions.
Thank you very much. Okay, consent calendar, 7A approval, affidavit of posting for the Planning Commission regular meeting of December 17th, 2024, and 7B, approval of the minutes for the October 15th, 2024 Planning Commission meetings.
Can I move to approve 7A and 7B? I think we have to wait on 7C, is that correct?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see 7C. Let's throw 7C in there too, minor modifications, zoning case number 2251.
I'll correct it, say, move to approve 7A, B, and C.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect. Excluded consent calendar items, I'm assuming we've got none.
None at this time, Chair.
Okay, so we will move on to public hearings on items continued from previous meetings. 9A, zoning case number 24-074, site plan review for 2 Possum Ridge Road. You want to give us an overview?
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. The project is located at 2 Possum Ridge Road at the intersection of Crest and Possum Ridge. Is this amplified? Okay. Testing.
Project.
Okay. And is within the RAS 2 zone. 34 residents that fall within 1,000 square feet of this property have been notified of this public hearing this evening. And I see some are here already. The property's irregular in shape. is unique in that it's bifurcated by Possum Ridge Road and has steep slopes at the northwestern portion of the parcel and within the eastern portion of the parcel. The property itself is generally below the grade of Crest Road and Possum Ridge Road as well. To sum up the results of the approved improvements to date, that was adopted in the resolution under 23-150 at the April 16th meeting. The project was approved for a 2,570 square foot addition that resulted in a 6,230 square foot residence, a new basement, a new attached garage, along with a pool, outdoor kitchen, fire pit, driveway, and other improvements such as landscaping. Requests associated with the previously approved development were conditional use permits for the stable, the corral, and the sports court, and also variances of which related to the siting of the addition, pool, and originally proposed location of the tennis court. However, the applicant elected to postpone the requests for final approval of the corral, sports court, and stable conversion in order to incorporate the commissioner's suggestions. At this time, the applicant's proposing a revised scope of work to include a site plan review for a tennis court, guest house, and new stable. The total net lot area of the 5-acre site is approximately 150,000 square feet. Building pad area for pad 1 is approximately 52,000 square feet. And building pad area for pad 2 is approximately 7,300 square feet. In this exhibit, pad 1 is outlined in green and pad 2 is outlined in purple. The requests for conditional use permits are for the stable over 200 square feet, corral over 550 square feet, a tennis court, and a guest house. This also requires variances for encroachment into the front and rear yard setback for the stable, site disturbance of more than 40%, and a deviation from the allowed retaining wall heights for the tennis court. In summary, the changes that have occurred since the October meeting are a new 800 square foot guest house, increasing this tennis court size from 6,000 to 7,200, and removal of the request to convert the existing stable into a mixed-use recreation room, and instead proposing a new 3,380 square foot stable. Shown here is an overview of the new structures and the corral area being proposed as part of the Phase 2 construction. In this exhibit, you can also see where the encroachment into the front and rear yard setbacks occur for the stable and the corral. Because of the encroachments into the setbacks, the applicant is requesting a variance. Previously, the earthwork quantities for the project yielded an exempt amount of export totaling 68 cubic yards. And currently, as proposed, the project's requiring 1,252 cubic yards of non-exempt export, which requires a variance. Presently, the western portion of the site is already disturbed and developed. However, more extensive grading is needed for the tennis court and the stable areas. In total, Phase 2 includes 3,453 cubic yards of cut and 2,201 cubic yards of fill, for a total of 5,654 cubic yards, which leaves the site unbalanced. The amount of cut and exports justified, though, given the extra effort to reduce visibility of the structures as much as possible. The project needs to disturb an additional 26,300 square feet of land since the last approved improvements, bringing the total disturbed area to 73,800 square feet, which is 48.56% of the lot. This is within the limit of the 50% disturbance for the site, However, the slopes created by the grading must generally be less than 3-to-1 slopes, but the tennis court and the barn area have 2-to-1 slopes that are needed to make the land transition back to its natural grade, and thus a variance is being requested for creation of the steeper slopes. A variance is also being requested to exceed the allowable height for the game court retaining walls. The maximum height is 3 feet. The proposed walls are an average of 2.5 feet high, but they don't go higher than 5 feet. Shown here is the location of the highest point of the retaining wall at 5 feet. And it should be noted that since the October meeting, the overall barn height was reduced by 4 feet, and then sunken down 2 more feet to reduce the visual impact of the stable. So the silhouette that you saw earlier today, that is changed a bit since then. Additionally, the stable was shifted 2 feet 9 inches to create a better turnout area and allow for planting outside of the RHCA easement. It also intends to address the RHCA's concern with the proximity of the barn to the trail. Previously, there were concerns from the community that we have now adequately addressed since the last commission meeting, and this is all due to the continued applicant's coordination and cooperation with the staff. However, we did receive a letter dated December 12th from James and Ann Bellis, who had concerns about the number of CUPs and variances being requested, as well as staff's cross-checks with various environmental agencies, and whether a stormwater erosion plan check was performed. Staff, wasn't done with that one. Staff believes that the number of CUP and variance requests are justified for the 5-acre parcel because it has unique characteristics like irregular shape, steep slopes, and limited buildable area. If the commission would like to hear additional responses to these comments, the applicant's engineer is also here today. The applicant would like to consider the option to propose an ADU rather than a guest house at this time. If the commission's in agreement with the deletion of the guest house component of the application, then a motion to include this change may be made. Additionally, the applicant would like to maximize the ability to screen the tennis courts by allowing the proposed trees for the tennis courts along Crest Road boundary to exceed the roof line of the nearest project structure by 4.5 feet. Again, this change can be incorporated into the motion if the PC wishes as well. The project's categorically exempt from CEQA pursuant to Section 15303 Class 3 and does not pose a significant effect on the environment as proposed. It is recommended that the Planning Commission open the public hearing, take public testimony, and provide direction to staff and the applicant. A resolution is provided in Attachment 3 in case the commission wishes to approve the project with conditions. And with that, that concludes staff's presentation.
Great, thank you very much. Any questions at this point in time? Okay, well, thank you very much. At this point in time, I'm going to open it up to the public. If you'd like to speak, please come up, state your name, address.
Do you want to sit here?
Hi, I'm Megan Campbell. I'm the architect for the project. I wanted to thank you guys again for all your help along the way. I think we've addressed most of the concerns. I also want to thank Lisa for hopping in the middle of a somewhat complicated project with a long history and doing a great job in learning about all the issues with it. So I'm mostly here to answer questions. I think you know, as she said, we're open to changing the guest house to an ADU if that becomes a sticking point. And I think with the rest of the comments that we've received from the community and from the RHCA, I think we've addressed them as best as we can.
Any questions? So I got a question for you, and you know it's a sticking point with me. I seem to have a lot of sticking points, a lot of issues. But I noticed in the last slide, or the one before the last one, talked about landscaping. And obviously, I'm concerned because that lot is just such a incredible piece of rolling hills. So when you say 4 to 6 feet, you're talking about up on the crest property line.
Sure, and it's
How
4
far
foot
down?
6. So as we slide down
Yeah.
onto the property, they can get taller. So what we would do is move the trees down so they can come to a reasonable tree height, but it would be capped at 4'6" above crest. So it's always going to be below the average person's sight line.
Okay, okay.
I think originally we proposed 6 feet, and you said it needed to come down. It felt a little.
Yeah, and I know you
looming.
want to soften it, and I know it's a fishbowl up there, and I get it, and now that we've moved the tennis court, we want landscaping there to soften it, right? So get all that. I just need to make sure that that landscaping is far enough down the hill and doesn't grow up, that now we've got the whole view blocked. So we gotta find that happy place.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that the 6 feet or whatever, depending on how far you put that down, how far that comes up. Do you have any,
Yeah, so I did a section on one of my sheets, PA03, and it shows where the ridge line is of the existing stable and also the height of, I think I show the height of the house. But if we kept the condition as is of it can't go past the ridge line, you wouldn't be able to plant anything because you'd have trees that capped at 2 feet.
and we don't want that.
Yeah.
You know, so I just need to understand what exactly it is that you're proposing.
Yeah, so we're proposing a fence along the property line.
Yeah, 3-rail fence, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Behind the tennis court, sorry?
In between crest and the tennis court, yeah.
So the association took back
Right.
a certain chunk of the land. Still don't understand why, but they took it back, right? And so now they've pushed that fence back and down the hill a little bit. So what is it, 50 feet, 30 feet?
Yeah, I think the crest is 50 feet from the center line.
That from the center line?
To the property line, and then there's no additional
And the
easement.
fence will be on,
The fence will be on the property line.
On the property
Because
line.
there's no easement there, yeah.
and then the retaining wall is beyond that. So is the fence
Yeah.
gonna be at the top of the retaining wall?
No,
No.
it'll be before that, and then you'll have some space, and then you'll have the retaining wall with,
Okay.
with the,
And what's the distance between the fence and the retaining wall?
35, because the retaining wall's on the side setback, and that's our side property line. So you have the fence on the property line, and then 35 feet of this landscape buffer zone that we're gonna be
Where
planting.
you're proposing to plant,
Yeah, and we're not, they've,
that go above the fence itself?
Here.
no, you can't plant above the fence. That's,
Not above it, I mean, height-wise, would that grow above the fence?
well, crest, it lowers down as you get to the side of the property and how the property line elevation kind of changes. Yeah.
4 to 8 feet, the property line is between 4 to 8 feet to the west.
Yeah, and I think the fence is at 50, the standard fence is at 56 or
Right,
something.
what made me nervous, and maybe I just don't understand, is when Brad asked about, you responded that the ridge height with planting and/or, I hate to say it, but it becomes a hedge. But what happens if the hedge is growing up and it's you said from the sight line of the, of Crest. So you're saying is, if we're standing on Crest, elevation wise, it's not more than 4.5 feet above
Above crest.
okay.
Yeah, so
But
it's
the
never
hill is
gonna-
going down X feet.
Yeah.
So that means that whatever it's going down X feet, whatever that elevation is, let's say it's 10 feet, then all of a sudden those trees, or whatever is planted, could be 14 feet high?
I think we tried to, oh, yeah,
Exactly, members of the public.
no, absolutely.
Oh, so you gotta state you now.
Yeah, I'm Doug Whitcomb,
Thank
the
you.
owner, yeah, of course. We're trying, because I understand what everybody would like to retain, which is the view of, you know, the Queen's Necklace views. And so we're doing our own studies with Simon, the city's silhouette guy, trying to figure out where that balance is, where the trees, the height is maxed so that I can at least get property coverage for our property, yet everybody gets to, you know, maintain this great view. And we came up with 4.6. That was literally, I think, exactly where you can still see all of the views of, you know, LA, Queen's Necklace, yet, you know, I get privacy in my home. And we spent a good amount of time trying to sort through that. We're happy to, obviously, you know, further study it, but we spent a good amount of time trying to, you know, with our rulers and ladders and stuff, trying to see where
Yeah.
it would be impactful.
And it's just, it's hard without that visual to
Sure.
understand what 4.6 is, because, I mean, if, you know, the average person is 6 feet, 4.6 is right here, all of a sudden, it's starting to get pretty high, right?
And recognize the view, like most places up here, is not straight.
Yeah.
It's down,
Yeah.
okay? So the problem is, if it goes up to that level and you can't see over it, you're not gonna see through it, then you're not gonna have the view of the city from on Crest at all.
And remember, if it drops off 4 to 8 feet, you're gonna have some decent-sized trees, because you're gonna be planting down closer to where the fence is by the tennis court, right?
Sure.
It's the ones that concern me more as you start to go up from the tennis court back towards your 3-rail fence, right? And so,
And what do we do about the whole hedge situation? Because we're not really
well,
supposed to have
we can't
hedges.
have hedges, but
They're-
I'm not.
So it's
Yeah,
just trees sporadic, so you are seeing between them.
Yes. Yeah, we spent a lot of time with your landscape designer trying to make sure it wasn't a hedge, because I know it's super important for you
Yeah,
guys.
the landscape plan checker specifically had 3 or 4 comments saying they need to be spaced this far apart, it can't be a hedge,
Yeah.
all these rules about it. And our landscape architect spoke with her, and they negotiated, I think it's a 50-foot spacing. We're proposing olive trees as like the perimeter planting, and I think she said 50-foot spacing between the olive trees. So there's little shrubbery and, not hedge, but little planting in between to soften it, so it's not just a mono plant. But it's not gonna hedge out. They're
Yeah,
separate olive trees with very strict spacing between them.
Yeah, I think just, I'll wrap it up with this, but I know what everyone wants to retain, you know, Megan and I were, you know, we're conscientious of that, and, you know, as you like to say, Brad, maybe it needs a little more massaging, you know, I'm not exactly sure, we've tried, we've brought it down enough to where I think the important thing for our family is that at least we have privacy with our pool and our front yard and our backyard. I mean, it's just, we're in a pretty big bubble, but there's a way to do it so that, you know, we get privacy for our home.
and that's what we need to try to figure out. So I've been, I don't even know how many years I've been on the planning commission, 15 years, maybe more than that. I have never taken more abuse than over your property and the vacant lot up on Crest. It is just amazing. Everybody wants to get in your business.
I think
on-
Darty would be proud, to be honest. Darty Crow.
He may be. But so, you know, it's trying to give you guys what you want and massage a little bit. And so, is it 4.6 up there? Is it 4 feet? I just,
I think it's also somewhat important to consider and remember that, you know, just what, 2 years ago, I mean, this property was somewhat of a eucalyptus forest that's just been opened up to the entire community. And we're not looking to create a new forest. For one thing, you know, the ukes are a pain in the butt to maintain and, you know, clean up after. You know, like I will say it again, it's just privacy just for the home itself. I don't want to block the views, which I think are great. I enjoy them too. You know, I will be driving it.
And remember, as you
Often.
push down closer to the house,
Right.
planning gets a lot easier down there. It's
Absolutely.
as you start to get up to Crest where it gets more problematic.
Yeah, I'm not sure of the exact verbiage we could come up with, but I'm sure there's something that, you know, would make sense for.
Yeah,
Trying
and
to
we'll-
get to a pass where we go from here, and the problem is, in my mind, and I think we're all visual, I think we need a drawing. But I'm trying to go backwards and try to give you everything today, to be honest with you, except we visit that. It's kind of similar to what we've been doing this, but the property's justified the different levels of approval, and you've worked with us, and thank you. I think what we just need to do is see that, because that wasn't flagged, and that's a different. I also don't know, after us, where the association comes in relative to planting and landscaping in general, because I think overall, I think they approve landscaping.
Well,
Absolutely.
yeah, but also, I mean, they're not doing anything in the,
Setback.
the setback and all of that, so that helps them tremendously. But I agree with what he said, you know, I know we keep dragging you guys back in here and asking for you to change it and whatnot, and I don't wanna hold it up, but it's just such a critical piece of it, so,
It's also something you do at the end of the project, in a way, other than, I would counter my own argument there is, if you're gonna plant an olive tree, you'd wanna get them in now, so they kind of mature over the year that you're building the house, hopefully a year or less.
You nailed it. I don't want to be too old by the time these trees finally start to
Exactly,
grow.
and it
but-
depends on how
but-
many big gallon trees you put in, you know, what you start with, obviously. But, I don't know how we approve that without, because you're
Well,
100% right. Yes.
We also don't have a recent landscape plan with all of the changes with the buildings. So we would actually need a landscape plan, and the landscape plan that you submitted hasn't been approved by our landscape consultant yet. So the landscape plans that we have, that we looked at, were older, and they don't reflect any of the changes with, you know, the new structure and that. So we would definitely need, you know, an updated landscape plan, and it should have been included in the plans, so that way they could have been reviewed, so.
Yeah, we have an updated landscape draft. There's all the questions of the easement, the road widening, the fence line, that he's kind of just paused on those, and so we don't want to keep starting and stopping with finalizing the plan, because we can't until we get the board approval for any of the planting and the easements. But I can send you the draft, and he did respond to each of the corrections and said which ones were addressed and which ones.
Yeah, I have a copy of that, if the commission wants to see that. It's comment number 16 that we were talking about, the olive trees. I don't know if you passed it.
Yeah, RCA's been very involved in just the landscape portion of this project, I would say, so, just so everyone knows.
Right, so, in this letter from, the city's landscape, consultant, it shows in different colors. Green means that they've addressed it, yellow is that they've sort of addressed it, and then magenta is that they have not. So if you go to comment 16, so it does talk about, the screening for the, tennis court in the way of, the olive trees. So the applicant has responded, but in a sufficient manner, so I'm assuming green is a green light.
Yeah, that's a letter from the landscape architect.
Yeah.
He spoke with the reviewer, Carrie, on the phone, and they were able to clear certain ones. She gave verbal approval, but is still waiting to do a full round of review until we can either remove everything from the easements or get portions that are approved through the RHCA.
Okay, because I would suggest to the commission that we can add a condition of approval that says that either staff can work with the applicant to complete all the landscape plan checking, or you can bring it back to the next meeting, hopefully, or as a continued separate item.
And I'm actually okay with either. I mean, what I want to do is try to get you guys moved along, right? But it is so critical that we're comfortable, or staff is comfortable with what you, and this really addresses the spacing. It doesn't address the height. I'm less concerned about the spacing and more concerned about the height, right? Now, the good news is with this spacing that they're proposing, you're gonna have view corridors, which help, right? So, okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
In the past, we have done that, we brought about, made a condition for them to bring back landscape plans.
Okay,
For certain projects.
okay.
Again,
that's-
association does look at that and approve it in general, right?
And our landscape consultant looks at it, and so do we,
Okay.
so does staff.
Okay. What would a meeting be without you?
It's like, Merry Christmas, everybody. Dan Bolton, Bolton Engineering on behalf of the applicant. Happy to, I think the issues that sort of spring to my portfolio, I think a lot of them come from the Bellis letter. I can get into as much detail as anybody is interested, speaking broadly, of course, with phase one. A lot of the technical issues that were outlined in that letter were addressed: preparation of erosion control plans, preparation of stormwater plans, evaluation of the project in light of water courses, adjacency. Those same issues will be examined when we go to plan check, which is the normal course of things. The project soils engineer is not here tonight, but they did prepare a soils report that was approved as part of the construction of the home. And they concluded that the geology and soils were stable and adequate at that site. So I think we're in pretty good shape on those issues, but I'm happy to get into as much detail as anybody would like. And I'm happy to answer any other questions that might be on the project.
Any questions? I think we're good.
That sounds easy. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so we'll close that and we will talk amongst ourselves. Who would like to start? Greg?
So I wasn't here the last meeting, but on the barn, sounds like they've done the changes that you all suggested, and did get a little lowdown from Sean, because he had some concerns with the last one, and he says that they were addressed, and I think everybody agrees, so I'm okay.
They've had a lot of eyes, not only from the city, but the association as well. The association came the last meeting and they were concerned that it was too close to the trail.
Yeah.
They moved it over, it was too tall, they moved it down, so.
As it relates to the ADU, I think that's a good idea, and for some reasons we all discussed on site today, so I'm good there. The tennis court location, and being inset into the hillside, I'm good with, because I think it hides a lot of it. I like the structure of the ADU that will be next door to it. Blends together, and with the larger barn being demolished, and then the structure next door, I'm fine with that. I think also it, in a funny way, helps the view on that side of the lot over there, looking down. This does remind me, by the way, of 23 Crest, where we actually looked at improving. They had a house down the hill, if we recall, and they were trying to use some of their export dirt or current dirt to fill to make a mound in between, remember? And they were kind of hiding their house with the dirt. And then we agreed to, I think I suggested taking the 7 trees down to like 4 trees, and we just kind of negotiated what kind of an impact. However, that was taken out of our hands, and the city council, took it under their guise. So I don't know where that's ended up, but that is not a bad example, even though it's looking at ocean versus city, but it's on the same darn road and just up the street, and it was similar aesthetics, because we're all concerned about when we walk that like a lot of us do here every day or once a week at minimum on the weekends, we're looking at these views. So I think that's a concern, and we just have to remember that, as long as the 4'6" is not consistent, it may work, I just don't know how it will look, and I think we need a rendering. And the landscape architect for the 23 Crest, for example, actually produced a AI video of when you go down the street looking at it. I'm not suggesting you do that, you could do a rendering that would give a view from the street that would help us. So I'm okay with moving ahead with a couple of these conditions.
Okay.
I agree. And a rendering would be helpful just because we're also visual. It's hard for me to just picture all that. And I do want to also emphasize, I get the privacy thing. Truly, I do. That's why we live here, is to have that privacy too. So I think a rendering would help. And I appreciate the applicants, just listening to us and really trying to comply. And I think it's going to be a great project.
Great.
I agree with that, and the rendering would be a good idea, because you are owning one of the most visible lots, and the community will have questions, and how's it really gonna look? The more you have for us to respond with, I think the better for everybody, and we're not trying to slow you down in any respect. The barn, you have made it smaller, you've made it a little bit smaller and lower. It's still, when you go from nothing on that land to a two-story barn, again, is it too big? A lot of people will think it will be, but I think the more you can provide the renderings and kind of let people see how it will look, will be better. And I know the Community Association still has to approve that design at any rate. They were a little worried about the glazing of the windows and that the public might be able to see through that. So from your perspective and wanting to provide your privacy on that side of your lot as well, I just want to make sure you're comfortable with the concerns they have.
Thank you. Okay, me. You're almost done with me. I truly appreciate you guys listening. I know that we've asked you to do a lot. You've made a lot of changes to it, not to mention the one this morning about turning it into an ADU. I really appreciate you making that concession. That helps a lot. I think at the end of the day, you're gonna have a really nice project. And I think flipping it around a little bit, I think in the end, you're gonna be happy with it. I agree with all that was said. I agree with Greg. I think we do need a rendering of some sort of the landscape. And what I wanna do is, and if we can approve it, subject to them coming back next time with a landscape plan or turning it over to staff to oversee that. I don't want to hold you up. I want to keep you moving. I appreciate what you've done. I appreciate the concessions that you've made, and I want to move it along. So I guess my question to staff, to council, what is the best way to approach this? Do you want us to remain involved, to see a landscape plan next meeting? And we can, approve the resolution subject to that? Do you want us to turn it over to staff and you guys can deal with it?
Entirely up to you, but both of those decisions work well for us.
I think in either case, it would be acceptable. However, I think it might be more streamlined if we just if staff works with the applicant directly
Okay.
to resolve those issues.
So why don't I attempt to make a motion?
I love it.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve case number 24074 as written, with the guest house use being changed to ADU designation, and subject to the landscape plan for the subject property, working with staff to get the final approval. And I didn't word that correctly, but you can kind of change that around
I'll second.
Okay, you want to do a vote, roll call?
Yes, Chair. Lisa, was there another item in there that was included outside of the ADU?
Their ADU and then this.
Was the height of the,
Yes, please, if we can.
And then that was landscaping related, so
yeah,
that was, that
and
was.
they need to work with you on that.
Our conditions of approval.
We can work with the city, we can work with legal counsel to get exact language for the conditions of approval.
Yes. Actually, can staff clarify if the guest house was been evaluated under the city's ADU ordinance?
No. So I think it was treated as a guest house, just, I think from the beginning. I don't have the history of, Stephanie, do you have?
No, because the applicant submitted the fees and applications for the conditional use permit for the guest house.
Okay. Okay. I only say that because the ADU ordinance, as written, is a ministerial approved process, and so it's not something that, as written, would be approved from a discretionary hearing before the commission. It would be just applied directly to staff and not subject to a vote before the planning commission.
So do we need to change the motion then to say exactly that? And take it out of the purview of us?
In fact, the way it was originally written, without the addition of converting it to an ADU, I think was proper, because in that instance, they can then work with staff to see if it meets the requirements of the ADU ordinance.
I don't want to approve it as a guest house. I want to approve it as an ADU, okay? And I want to give them assurance that we're going to approve it, because I've asked them to change it. So I don't want to send them away without the assurance that they can get that approved.
Of course. I think that assurance would come from the approval process of the ordinance itself. So the way the city's ordinance is written, it's basically a checklist, and if you meet all the items on that checklist, then you have approval. And it's not a discretionary decision. It's not something where conditions are added. You either kind of meet the requirements or you don't, and then staff approves the ADU, and it's very straightforward.
So if we approve it with if we take the guest house out of the approval, it sounds like they could get the ADU approved by staff administratively. But the only risk is we're not approving it with the guest house, and I guess should that be a concern? But if it didn't work out ADU-wise, obviously I think they would have to come back, and we'd have to revisit it as a guest house.
We'll approve it as a guest house if that's the case, but
Okay.
It can-
That's important right there, so.
Right.
yeah.
Well, that's, at this time, both of those options are available. So you're able to approve it as
I understand the options. I
house.
want it as an ADU.
and the applicant has the ability to turn it into an ADU.
Has the ability, doesn't mean he has to do it.
That's correct, doesn't have to.
How do we suggest that they do?
So you guys have seen the plans, you've seen what they're proposing. Is there any reason why that structure cannot be an ADU?
Does it have a kitchen? I don't remember seeing the floor plan. Does it have the kitchenette? Does it have?
I think what you can do is just strike the guest house from the scope of the approval from the project completely. And then we'll come back with an ADU, go through the regular process of making it an ADU.
That's fine, I just want to make sure that you're going to get it, okay? I don't want to drag you down that road and then you do not get it, right? So I want to
Yeah, we
make
can-
sure.
We've explored
Especially if they
ADU.
approve the grading. If we get the grading for the guest house pad, then I think we can get the ADU at an administrative level.
Okay, can we specify that then?
Okay, so we
Yep.
can memorialize that staff will then work with the applicant to proceed with the ADU as
Yes, so we can, did you want to just completely strike the guest house as part of the approval this evening?
Yeah, if it's not approved as a guest house, that it doesn't need to be
Okay, so then
in the resolution at all,
physically
so
it
just,
will disappear.
yeah.
Okay, okay. So then I guess, however, we can state that in the approval. That
Yeah.
would be ideal.
In making the motion, the commission can, give the directive to staff to work with the applicant to facilitate the ADU process and get approval that through the ADU ordinance.
Okay.
Should we say so moved?
If, I would say, how is it that the architect phrased it, that, striking the application for the guest house and then with the directive to staff to work with the applicant on approving an EDU?
But we are approving the grading.
Okay.
I think by making the motion to approve it, want me to take one more stab?
Please.
And then we'll kind of fumble around here, so, I move to approve zoning case 24-074, subject to striking the guest house and, staff working with applicant on a landscape plan.
Good. I will second.
Okay. Roll call?
Making sure I get my notes, okay. Commissioner Douglas,
Yes.
Commissioner Cardenas absent, Commissioner Cooley,
Approve?
Vice Chair Kirkpatrick,
Yes.
and Chair Cho.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
The EDU.
This
stuff,
is new
every
public
year
hearings.
adds new
This is
requirements.
zoning case
And
number
it's a very tight
24-053. This is for 74 Eastfield Drive. Would you give us a overview?
Yes, of course.
I'm gonna have some chocolate.
All right. Good evening, honorable commissioners, planning commissioners. I'm here to present the project for the 74 Eastfield Drive, zoning case number 24-053. It's for a conditional use permit. The property is zoned RES1. The subject property is located on Eastfield Drive at the southeastern portion of the city. I wanted to provide a better visual of the parcel. The rear of the parcel borders Ranchos Palos Verdes. So it's located right here, as you can see. This road right here is Crest Road East, and it ends here. The next road is Crest Road, which is in Ranchos Palos Verdes. Here's the water towers. So that's where the location is. It's over in the southeast portion of the city. A little bit of, here's the vicinity map. The new cabana is located far enough from any of adjacent structures, and it doesn't have any obstructions to any of the, view obstructions to any of the adjacent properties. Closest one right here is at least the property, this property located to the north is 87 feet and 7 inches, and the furthest is 468 feet and 5 inches. A little bit of background, it is in the RES1 zone. The net lot area is 67,950 square feet, 1.55 acres. So it's added, it's big enough to support the new cabana. Building pad is 23,300 square feet. There is an existing single-family residence, 4,040 square feet. There's an attached garage, 748 square feet, an existing swimming pool, 834 square feet. There's 2 trellises. One trellis is 336 square feet, and then the second trellis number 2, which is 165 square feet, that's the one that's going to be demolished. On June 25th, 2024, the applicant did apply for a conditional use permit application for a detached structure to exceed 200 square feet. The existing trellis is located on the southeast portion of the building pad. That's the one that's going to be demolished and replaced with a new 355 square foot cabana. Under the roof, it's 355 square feet. With the roof, total square footage is 498 square feet. The cabana will be open on all 4 sides. The maximum height of the cabana at the highest point is 18 feet and 6 inches. The dimensions of the cabana are 18 feet by 15 feet and 6 inches. There is no grading required for the new cabana, and the project does comply with all of the development standards in the municipal code. The only thing here is that the applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to exceed the 200 square feet maximum. And, it does comply with all of the development standards. Here, structural coverage, it's only adding 1% structural coverage, which brings it to 9.7, which is still below the 20% maximum. Flat work is 10.9, which is below the 15% maximum. Total together is 20.6, which is well below the 35% maximum. As for the disturbed area, the disturbance is at 69.1%, but it's in an area that's already disturbed, so there's no additional disturbance for this project. There's no grading. This is this proposed site plan. These are the setbacks. It doesn't encroach any into the setbacks, any of the easements. Does comply with all of the development standards. This is just an aerial picture so you can kind of see the location. This is Wide Loop, and this is the southeast corner of city where Crest ends, Crest Road. There's the Crest Road gate here, Crest Road East gate, that little gate that's, I think it's the safety, the fire. And then here is an aerial picture. It's really small, but it's where the little red dot is, that's where the proposed cabana will be located. And, it's hidden, tucked away, no view obstructions. Here's a picture of this is the existing trellis. And that's going to be demolished and replaced with a new cabana. I don't know if it's kind of blurry, but these are the south, north, the west, and then the east elevation. It's open on all 3 sides, on 3 of the 4 sides. So the project was noticed in the Daily Breeze, and all public notices were sent out on December 6th. And as to date, staff has not received any concerns or any public comments regarding this project. And it is categorically exempt. It's determined pursuant to California CEQA Section 15303, Class 3, new construction of a single-family residence and accessory structures. So it is exempt. So our recommendation is to open the public hearing, take public testimony, close the public hearing, discuss the proposed project, and then staff has provided a resolution, number 2024-15, for your consideration and for approval. If there's any questions, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much, very helpful. Any questions?
Just one real quick, the association had already looked at this. Is
Yes,
that
they approved it first.
comment on that?
No. There's no comments. They approved it previously. They went to them first before they came to us, so they already have their approval.
That's pretty straightforward.
No questions.
Okay, so at this point in time, I'm going to open it up to the public. If you'd like to speak, please come up, state your name. Seeing no one wanting to speak, we will close the public hearing and let's have a conversation. Pretty straightforward.
I
Yeah,
have
particularly
no
when they
issues.
did it reverse, it helps that the association kind of already.
How'd you like to make a resolution?
Make a motion.
A motion for a resolution.
Move to
Thank
approve
you.
zoning
See,
case
you're leaving me.
24053 as written.
Who's
I
gonna,
will second.
who's gonna keep on the up and up? Yeah, second?
I second.
Great. Roll call.
Commissioner Douglas?
Yes.
Commissioner Kavanaugh is absent. Commissioner Clooney? Yes. Vice Chair Kirkpatrick?
Yes.
And Chair Tuck.
Yes. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay, is there any old business?
At this time?
Okay, is there any new business? Not at this time. Do we have any scheduled field trips for the next?
We do. We're gonna be. Yes, we do. We have 15 Flying Main Road.
15 Flying Main.
Road.
So on 15 Flying Main, you're gonna need to see if any of us need to recuse ourselves.
It's right next to her house.
Yeah, definitely me.
Well, so if she has to recuse herself, I may have to recuse
And
myself.
Me. And me, because I'm right down the street.
Can we say what it's regarding?
It is regarding a corner of an addition that encroaches about 4.3 feet into the side setback.
Yeah, I will be there as a resident.
Okay.
Is this the current project under construction? or
No, that's the one right next to
barn?
it.
This is the barn,
No, this is the addition to the house.
Yeah,
on the barn property?
Yes.
On the-
on the barn
The
property.
two ladies that on that?
Yes.
The
Yeah,
two
yeah.
ladies,
Oh,
yeah.
okay, okay, yeah. Okay.
So I'm right next door, she's right next door, so we're both gonna have to recuse. So you better leave him in because,
And Cardenas is okay, and we will at that time have a new commissioner, so.
okay, okay, you're right, so we should still have a quorum. Okay,
But are you on
Sounds-
Centrain?
I'm on Century. Is that?
Yeah, you're fine. Should be fine.
I'm on Century and, yeah, I should be okay.
you're far enough away. All right, items from staff?
No, I don't have to stop.
I have one quick question on our regulation that we have to sign, conflict of interest deal.
Shoot.
Yeah, do we have to do that before the end of the year? I forget the timing of that.
It's April.
Is it April?
Yes.
Is it April? Okay, thank you. I did try to do it proactively. I had trouble, so I'm gonna, not unlike, I don't know if it's changed or whatever, but I thought I needed a code, but anyway, let's not bog down here. If we've got
Christian, I think,
time,
helped us
just-
with it last time.
Yeah.
Also go back with the city clerk to ensure that he works with.
Okay.
to ensure that-
Yeah, he did that
Be
last
great,
time.
because Sean got fined like $1,000 because he didn't do it,
Mine went
so,
through
Are you
fine.
serious?
yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, then we can do it.
Wow.
Did mine one.
I did mine too, but I can't remember how I did it or
I
anything
came
else.
in and Christian helped me.
Yeah.
But it's really simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like a moron after.
Yeah,
I had
but
it.
we just need to do it, so. just-
All right. That would have been the items
I will put
from,
it on the list, please.
that would have been items from the planning commission. You jumped
Is that
ahead.
retroactive, so I would need to do one for 2024 or as a closing one? Well, I'm off now, so,
And I'll let Christian work with you.
yeah. Well, I've done it before. If I have a problem, I'll contact him.
Any other items from the planning commission? None. I am adjourning till Tuesday, January 21st, 2025 at, well, right now it's 6:30, but we'll probably have a field trip at 7:30.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
These signed documents.
Stephanie?
Definitely keep, you don't throw this away, but this